Hello and welcome to the Ravens, a One Tree Hill podcast. I'm Simon and I love One Tree Hill.
And I'm Dom, and I've seen 185 episodes of One Tree Hill.
And tonight we are honored to be joined by a music supervising legend. We have song selecting royalty in the Zoom with us tonight. She has supervised the music in massive shows such as Virgin River, Sullivan's Crossing, To All the Boys I've Loved Before, Theatre Camp, and many more. But most importantly to this podcast, she was the music supervisor to none other than One Tree Hill, a show that is often highlighted for its excellent choice in music, where music plays a central role, dare we say, playing its own important character within the show. So many people have spoken on our podcast about how impactful the music from One Tree Hill has been in their lives, and tonight we are joined by the person responsible. Welcome to the podcast, music supervisor Lindsay Wolfington. Thank you, Lindsay, for being here, and welcome to the Ravens podcast.
Hi, glad to be here. Thank you for the lovely intro.
No, thank you so much for being here. I mean, One Tree Hill really is renowned for its music, and it does kind of play its own character. And so to be able to speak to the person that has brought so much music to so many people's lives is so awesome. We had John Nordstrom on a long time ago, and we loved talking to him and his story. It was so interesting, and obviously he's kind of on the other side of it, as you know, he's composing like the original score music, so to speak. He spoke very highly of you. So this feels like a full circle moment on the music front. But can we take you all the way back? And I have to apologize if we know that we followed you on Drama Queens. I don't know if you know that. Like, you were on the episode before we were on there.
Oh, I didn't realize the exact order of things, but that's so funny. That's awesome.
So this was bound to happen.
Yes.
But we haven't listened to Drama Queens yet because we only have two episodes of our podcast left, and this has been like a five, almost six, going on to 6 year journey, and we didn't want our voices
Wow.
or opinions to kind of be swayed. But in two episodes' time, we can go back and start their podcast in order. So apologies if you know these are crossover things that you've been asked already, but can you kind of talk us through your origin story, so to speak? Like, how does one become the music supervisor? Were you in someone's car and you just had a really good mix, a good a good ear for songs? Like, how does this happen?
No, I know. If I think a lot of people hope it's that easy. It's even harder now. So I worked in radio in college. So I was a DJ. My DJ name was Maggie Wolf. I worked at WBRU in Providence, Rhode Island, while I was a student at Brown University. It was kind of BRU was like this educational workshop in radio where we had um, like our we played a programmed playlist. So we had a professional programmer and a professional sales staff who sold commercials, and we had um, but all the DJs were students, and all the like promo staff and the news staff, and like part of the job of being like I had to like train to get a daytime shift and do all these like overnight practice shifts to anyway, worked in radio, and uh part of the fun was being a DJ, but then also like you'd be in music meetings every Sunday. We had like a music meeting where the music director would play new music, and you would like rate it. Like everybody, it would be like 20 people in a room, and you would say if you liked it and if you thought it would do well on the station. And that was always my favorite part, right? And I was usually a fan of, so this is 1997 to 2001. So it was a modern rock radio station, like played a lot of like Creed and Kid Rock and like, but also like Dave Matthews and the classic like Stone Temple Pilots, Nirvana, etc. But then we'd also play things that wouldn't get as much spins, like Beth Thornton and Ben Lee and Vertical Horizon, who ended up doing like better on the pop radio, and Dido, like, but it but on a modern rock station, like those weren't the norm, right? They were kind of like alternative, but they were always my favorite. So I actually I mean, I have a whole story where like I ran for a position in the music office and I did not get that position. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to do radio. What else is out there? And I was a huge fan of the TV show Felicity, which was on the WB, and used like had the end montage with a song and those like first kiss moments where you'd like hear a song. And so I moved out to LA and ended up meeting somebody who knew the music supervisors. Like basically, um, I also did a cappella in college. So he was like an alum of my a cappella group and he worked at Disney as a studio exec. And I was like, Felicity is my dream show. And he sent my resume over to them. And he says very much like, this is like 2001. So like Dawson's Creek had been on, Felicity had been on, but like, you know, music and television wasn't the thing that it is now, or that it became with shows like uh, One Tree Hill and The OC and Grey's Anatomy and all that stuff. So anyway, so I started as an unpaid intern with the two music supervisors who worked on Felicity, which was Madonna Wade Reed and Jennifer Peiken. And they are also like when I started, they were doing season one of Smallville and Alias, and literally like Rolling Stone magazine called them like the it girls of television, and it was such a fun place to be. But Smallville was produced by Tolan Robbins Productions. And so Jen and Madonna were like the Tolan Robbins girls, and like they did all their projects. And, you know, that was failed series. Like they did a Birds of Prey, they did a show called Black Sash, and then they had One Tree Hill. It would like this is like the 2 year period I was with them. And we had a thing in our office where we all did creative on all the shows, but just to like keep things organized. So, you know, there was one point person on every show. So we had three shows. Madonna was the point person on Smallville, and Jennifer Peiken was the point person on either it was Alias and then it was Las Vegas. And then I always had like the baby show, which at the time in 2003 was One Tree Hill. One Tree Hill was supposed to be a mid-season show, which I'm sure you've heard people talk about or not really.
It would you in what way? Sorry, when you say
So
mid-season,
most, so this like in 2003, like most shows, regular shows would premiere in September. And
right?
then mid-season shows would premiere in January. So actually, Grey's Anatomy was a mid-season show, and it would usually be like, oh, if a show fails, then this will be like the next show.
Got you.
And
Yeah.
but whatever was supposed to air, so we were supposed to be mid-air in January, and then suddenly, I don't know if it was July or August, whatever show was supposed to air on September 23rd, 2003, they were like, they pulled it. They're like, it's not doing well. One Tree Hill, like, you're up. So those first 9 episodes were like a sprint. Obviously, the pilot had been done. So, because we did that in the spring to prove that it was a good concept of a show and would sell. And then, so the music in that, what it was temped with things like 50 Cent and Linkin Park and Aerosmith and Coldplay, like all these bands that ultimately we couldn't afford, and some of them wouldn't clear. Um, but we found songs that were very similar, like in vibe, right? So like
And
we
that
used T.I. in When They Steal the Bus, but originally that was 50 Cent. But it just had to be like, you know, what would kids stealing a bus listen to? And T.I. was like the new 50 Cent at the time. Um, Jet, Are You Gonna Be My Girl was originally like Aerosmith had been temped there, which was a pipe dream. But you're just like, when you're doing that at the time, you're just like, we just want to give you an idea. Like nobody ever saw Aerosmith there, right? Because you wouldn't have the rights to do that. It was just like a proof of concept, like this kind of song would work there. Sorry if I'm going too inside.
no,
Uh,
this is great. I mean, there's already so many questions, even just on the pilot. But no, keep going. This is great. How does that bit work? Like, who are you going to? Does like each artist have a representative? Are you going to like the label, record label? Like, how do you clear it, and who makes that decision?
yeah. So, by the way, all of this is and people don't really do this anymore. When they make pilots, they actually put in music that they can actually have at the end of the day, but this is an old school way of doing things. But essentially every song, so I teach music supervision as well. So basically every song, someone recorded it and someone wrote it. Sometimes multiple people recorded it. I mean, wrote it. And the recording is owned by, sometimes it's a person or usually it's a label, right? Like if you're signed to a label, then Interscope Records signed Eminem. So an Eminem recording would be, you would go to Interscope Records to request those rights, and and then you would also go to all the publishers who represent the songwriters on the song. And you basically say, hi, we'd you like, there's like a form letter. Hi, we'd like to use this song in One Tree Hill, episode one. Here's the scene. Here's how long we would be using it. Here's the money we're hoping to do it for. Here are the rights we're asking for. Most shows now just pick up like all the rights, which is referred to as all media. But back then, they used to break it up into all TV for 6 years, and then you would get an option to pick up all TV in perpetuity, which means forever and ever. But that like new shows would often only request rights for 6 years because you pay less if you need them for less time. And when a show is starting out, it's not proven yet. So why pay all the money if that show is going to air 9 episodes and go away forever, right? Does that
Hmm.
kind of make sense? So, and then also there'd be an option for home video, right? Which, which at the time was DVD, beginning to be iTunes. Uh, but like, but the CW's in it, or it was the WB at the time, their initial concern was we want to make sure we can air it on the WB. So we basically got rights to air it on the WB, and then got an option for if we later want to put it out on home video, we just have to pay that fee to put it out on home video. So actually and eventually, probably by season 3 or 4, we did end up just getting all media, which included TV, home video, all the things. So, and you would do like one fee for all the things. But season 1 and 2, we had all these fees broken out. So the artists using season 1 and 2 probably got paid the most because they did end up picking up all those options, which doesn't always happen. And also, like we had like a super small budget. So I was like, oh my God, we only have $1,500 for this like upfront all TV 6 year quote, but we'll have options for perpetuity and for home video, and those can be more than $1,500, right? So they could be more like regular. $1,500 would be a pretty inexpensive fee.
Okay,
Um,
wait, hang on, because I've got
I
so
know.
many
I'm like,
questions.
gosh, we could do a whole like ask your question, but you could spend a whole.
No, it's a lot. I get it. Well, I don't get it, but I mean, I get it's a complicated subject matter. If you can't answer any of these things, you can just plead the fifth or say pass. It's fine. But I'm going to ask three questions. I'm going to ask them all now so I don't forget them. I'm already forgetting. Do you think that this? I mean, I know you didn't work on Dawson's Creek, but from being in the industry and infamously, they had to change their theme tune, right? After in season, I don't know, 3 maybe. Someone's hating me in the comments right now, but they, famously they had two theme songs, and I'm wondering if maybe that's something to do with the rights there, that maybe they lost the rights because they then later went back to the original theme song. Is that
Was
anything you've?
that while the show was airing or when it went to DVD?
I think it's when it went to DVD. You're right. They
Yes.
changed it on the DVD. So do you reckon that's because they didn't get the rights for the home video bit?
Or didn't get the rights or didn't want to pay for that. Because
Mm.
Felicity actually did the same thing. They replaced the music in the show, except for like the first and last episode of season 1, maybe 2. But we were involved in, like, I helped replace the music that went on the DV version of season 2 of Felicity. So that was definitely a thing they did with those 90s shows, but probably because they only initially got like 5 year rights or 6 year rights. Um, or it was expensive, and maybe because they didn't put the DVD out until a little bit later, did they? So they might have thought maybe it's not going to be as successful as the show was. I don't know. Like how much money are you going to actually make on DVD? Music rights add up really quickly. Like the budget, right? So if you don't want to pay $100,000 or whatever it would be to include it, that might have been a decision they made, and then maybe there's backlash and they turn it around.
Well, that's the next question. So obviously you don't need to give any specifics or a specific artist or anything like that, and we can do like ballpark figures. But let's say someone in the at the level of an Eminem, like that, or a 50 Cent, or someone that's like really popular and so on, so on, so on, recognizable music. Like what kind of ballpark figures are we talking to pay for the rights for that, to have it in the show and then have it for the 6 years or plus home video or whatever?
I mean, uh, I'll just say like television is a much more predictable fee structure than a media like film or even like ads and trailers. It's probably the smaller of the bunch, but sometimes that means a massive artist like Eminem doesn't even want to approve for whatever it's going to be. It's hard to nowadays, the number you'd be thinking about is that all media worldwide perpetuity fee. Television usually gets all media excluding theatrical because we don't go to theaters. And so like every right that you're asking for is like an additional thing they can charge for, or right, or if it's perpetuity instead of 6 years. Um, there are artists that won't even approve for this, but if you're thinking about like a well-known song, you're probably looking at, you know, 40 to $50,000, sometimes $60,000 for a show, and that's the all media world per thing. Um, and it might have been a little less in 2005, but I feel like that's just like a good ballpark. And honestly, every situation's different, right? Is the sometimes like if there's a biopic on the artist that's out, they won't give you approval, or if the biopic did really well, maybe they start charging more. Um, so it's really artist dependent, and all these things are also like every person's agreement with their label or publisher dictates what kind of approvals they get over what kind of media. And there might be an artist who like doesn't want to be in a scene with any drugs in it or whatever. And that could be a reason to say no, or it could be a reason to say charge more because they're not comfortable with the nature of the scene. Or you used it for 5 minutes instead of 1 minute. So there are a ton of factors that go into quoting what an artist would charge.
It's just amazing. It's just pure, like it's purely fascinating to me. It's like this. It's like things with Apple. Apple can never have a device that's in the hand of a villain in a in a
Oh,
movie.
really?
Or
I didn't
yeah,
know that. Okay.
Apple won't let any of their products be used by a villain because it's like a bad connotation. So it's really interesting, like that music has a similar connection. And it's just fascinating. Is there any? Do you find that there's like you've got like a small list, maybe even a long list of artists that won't release the music to the show you're working or whatever it might be, but a producer or someone, an executive is like, I want that song, I really want it, and you're like, we're beating a dead horse here. It's not going to happen.
I mean, yes, I think that's one of the benefits of having a music supervisor is like we know the landscape a little bit, so you can pretty quickly flag, like there's certain artists who are known, Led Zeppelin being one of them, like don't temp in Led Zeppelin because they probably won't approve. So when that was temped in, I was like, oh my God, like everybody knows like Led Zeppelin and like they want $1 million and television's not really their media. But my philosophy was always like, we'll try. And with the like Led Zeppelin example, even the producers were like, we know it's a long shot. We'll prepare a backup, right? Which is all you can do. And that's the smart way to do the job. So, to find a song that you know, that also works that you can clear. Because right, the whole thing with clearance, right, is that you don't want by the time you're on the mix stage and you're marrying a song to picture, it has to be approved. Um, Otherwise, you can legally get in you're in trouble, right? You don't have the
High
permission to
water.
do so. So if you go to that mix stage, you have a backup cleared, then you can wait to the last possible minute to let Led Zeppelin or whoever clear, knowing that if they don't, you'll go with this song. So we had a Trespassers Williams song that actually premiered, was used in the beginning of season 4, that was the backup to Led Zeppelin. And obviously, it was an extremely different choice, but also played the montage. But that was unbelievable, right? And I was literally like, oh my God, why did they tempt that in? Why did they tempt that in? And that was the end of season 3. So it's actually the end of my first year doing the show on my own as the music supervisor. The first 2 seasons, Jen and Madonna were the music supervisors, and I was their coordinator. And then they split up their partnership. And when they split up their partnership, I stayed with One Tree Hill, um, which was amazing, but also like super stressful. I'm like 26 years old, and I love this show, and I want to do the best job possible. Um, and so that was like I remember I was driving to Coachella, and like the publisher called and was like, just want to let you know that Led Zeppelin just approved. And I was like, are you kidding me? Um,
That's
yeah.
that's amazing. Such a cool story, and thank you. Like when you're picking the alternative songs, are you how does that work? What's because let's say Led Zeppelin's a great example. They say no. In my head, I'm thinking, well, Greta Van Fleet, kind of similar vibe, similar sound, not
They
too
weren't
bad.
out at the time, but
They weren't
yes.
at the time, no, of course. But like if I was like operating now, sort of thing, or thinking about it now, that like I think that would be a good alternative and start that process, I guess. Have you already got again another a list of this sounds like this song kind of goes with that, this fits, that fits?
Um, I don't have like a particular list. I have folders in my iTunes, and I know iTunes is so as a music supervisor, I don't love streaming stuff. I need MP3s to send my editors. Um, so I still like every show has its own folders, and I drag songs into them. I will say that yes, like Greta Van Fleet sounds like Led Zeppelin, but sometimes that's not necessarily what the scene needs. Like
Mhm.
sometimes it is, right? Like it's like, oh, we need a rocker that sounds like this. But sometimes it's about how the song does this, which like Babe, I'm gonna leave you, right? Like ramps. It's got a ton of dynamics in it. And granted, the Trespassers Williams song was not as dynamic, but it had an emotion to it. So really it's like, well, what is the scene actually calling for? So it's not just about matching styles of music. It's about what does the scene need? And and sometimes it is both. Like, and I think I shared this on Drama Queen, so sorry to repeat, but when Haley's mom passes away, we used Landslide, Fleetwood Mac. We were told that that might not clear, that that was a hard clear. So I was like, great, let's prepare a backup. And I brought in Adele, Make You Feel My Love. And Joe Davola had directed that episode, and he was like, oh crap, I thought nothing could beat Fleetwood Mac, and I still love Fleetwood Mac, but this is really good too. So clear both of them, please. And so we brought both of those songs to the mix stage, and then he ultimately went with the song he had temped in from the start, which did Fleetwood Mac cleared. We had a lot of situations like that, and I was very passionate about like selling the use as best as possible. Like I put a lot of care into my clearance work, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. But like same thing with Bruce Springsteen, My Hometown, which we opened the 100th episode with. You know, they were like, you have about a 10% chance it's going to clear. And I was like, okay, well, we're going to try. It's the 100th episode. I think we probably sent the script pages over, like made our best offer possible, and they approved. Um, and we'll never actually like know why. You're just like grateful for the approval. Same thing, Beastie Boys are notorious for not approving a lot, and we had this indie artist who had done this like dreary cover of Fight for Your Right to Party, and we put it in the show and they approved it. Like, and apparently the story behind that one is like, so you had to send them. They're like, well, what is this cover? So I like sent the cover. And I think they were like, this is kind of funny. Like, okay, you can use it, right? So you never really know why. But we had so many, we had a lot of luck with those kind of moments. And obviously, as a show goes on, that becomes a little bit easier because they know the entity. Season one with any show is always a little harder because it's not out. I mean, a show, I mean, it was out. So, like by season 13, you have shows to look, episodes to look back on. But now, when you make TV, like the first season of The Royals, we made the 10 episodes and they were released like 8 months later. So, and people were like, the Royals, like, are they dissing the royal family? Like, are they making fun of it? Are they respecting it? Like, so that was also like certain artists, I think, didn't know, especially if they were English, which we were trying to use a lot of British artists, like, if you have a particular opinion about the Royals, you may or may not want to approve a show about them, especially when you have no idea what the show is going to be. So,
Great, great answers. I kind of again, well, I've still got my third question from earlier for anyone that was counting. I asked two. I still have one more, and now I've formed another one on the back of that. But we'll stick with the original. Uh, Gavin DeGraw, we call him Big Gav on this podcast. We love it when Big Gav opens the. That's a complimentary term.
have
When
you had him on?
no, but if you have the connection, Lindsay, you know that that's what we want. Do you? Are you friends with him? What are you
I mean,
suggesting here?
I don't have like Gavin's cell phone number. I would have his like label and publisher, and he would know who I was. But
Well, that's more than we have. But we, yeah, like, I mean, the theme song is so absolutely perfect for One Tree Hill. I mean, I love that song anyway, and a lot of his music. But I mean, that song particularly, I mean, it's the anthem of the show, but it so perfectly, um, it's like it was made for the show, even though we know that it wasn't. But later on, it goes away, right? And you were just, and from the opening, and you were just talking about people doing covers and that sort of clearing. So how does that work in terms of if someone does a cover of a song, does that mean that you have to just get the clearance from the writer and not the label, but the label of the other person, or is it completely different? Like, can I do a cover of the song and you can come to me and clear it somehow, but do I have to clear it with Big Gav so I get the rights to cover it, or how does that
it's
work?
both. So you have to go to the writer and the recording. Obviously, if I'm using your recording, I'm not going to Gavin's record label, but I am going to his publisher, and they have to approve it. And some people some people will like charge a little bit more because it's not their version, or might want to hear it before they approve it. Um, Same thing like if Joy sang on camera, she sang Sarah McLachlan, we just cleared the publishing and then Joy recorded that. And that was like, that was live on the show. So the recording was like made, I think we pre-recorded it, but it was owned by the show. It wasn't like owned by a label. Um, uh, but yes, so you just clear the new the cover artist's recording, but you still have to clear the publishing. Now, you could go record a song and release it on Spotify or iTunes, and like the Harry Fox, that's performance rights, and there's usually not a denial or a particular fee there. It's just a matter of getting it registered with Harry Fox so that the songwriter gets their performance royalties. But if you're syncing it to picture, you need the writer's permission as well. And sometimes that kills it. But it can save you some money because, especially if you're using an indie artist covering the song, then you'd pay like, if it's a popular song, you're going to pay a popular song fee for the publishing, but you can get a smaller publishing for the recording that you're licensing.
Okay, that makes sense. And is that what the situation was with the Gavin? Again, you don't have to answer if
When
that's
we did
like,
the covers.
yeah, was it to try and save money, or was he retracting, or was it just to go in a different direction? Or
No, so when they did the deal, and the studio does theme song deals, so I wasn't privy to that. But they negotiate so that I mean, maybe they do only do like 5 seasons and then have to renegotiate or whatever, but they negotiate so that the show goes on forever. There's like they'll know what the fee is going to be. Um, I believe like the choice when we like started just using the single card, I think was just a creative choice to get into the show faster.
Mm.
Um, and uh, and then when we season 8, I mean, the showrunners were like, let's do covers this year. Like, let's change it up. Like, it's season 8. It's season 8 that we did that, right? Not season 7.
Yeah, it was season
Yeah.
8. Yeah.
It was more just like, what if we, um, and it was like, cool. So we went to it. It wasn't motivated by budget as far as I'm concerned. We still paid Gavin his publishing. Um, but it was just like we have the chance to do something different, and we went to artists we used on the show already, like most of those, like Patrick Stump from Fallout Boy, and um Susie Sue did one, and we went to like people who we were like friendly with the show anyway. It was just to do something cool.
Simon, there's still time for you to record for the reboot.
That's right.
That's
So,
excellent. Yeah, yeah. No, that's good news for everybody involved,
yeah,
especially.
absolutely.
Can't wait to hear it.
Could you imagine? We've already secured our spots as background performers in the reboot. Sophia Bush has greenlit this herself. Austin Nichols has backed it up. So now we're going for the theme tune rights. It just
Yeah.
makes sense. Eventually, we're going to get top billing as cast
If
members.
you guys can get me hired on the reboot, I'll make sure it happens. No.
We
We'll do
have
our
sway.
best.
We have
Yeah.
sway. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You've come to the right people. Uh, Peyton as a character. I mean, it feels like the as I'm listening to you talk, which is so interesting, that she would be the perfect music supervisor in real life if that character, was with us in real life, and in many ways she is. As you watching the show, that makes sense, Dom. She lives in
Yes, yeah.
us as like a fictional entity that can still inspire people. You watch your mouth. But sorry, Lindsay.
Wait, Dom, you don't like Peyton?
I like painting later on. She's very, it's, it's hard going. It's hard going, but she's fine. She's, it's okay.
We
I've been
we
outed.
we to be fair, and I have to back him up, we both had that same feeling. But we were watching it as older, you
It's
know,
old men.
we're watching it as British men watching an American teen drama. But watching it, I actually found her much better watching it in this more recent time when I'm older. And I think part of it is because you can really see that she hasn't got a support network. She hasn't got a present father. Obviously, she's got all of this horrible tragedy with the mothers in her life. So she becomes a much more empathetic character. I think when I was younger, I was very much focused in the basketball, and it's just like, yeah, yeah, this is all well and good, but get me back to Nathan and Lucas and what's going on the court.
Well,
Uh,
that's so interesting because the show began as that, and then they really felt like females were their audience, so more love triangles, please.
And that makes sense. But that also makes sense for maybe where the focus for me was like, okay, good, but I want to know, is Nathan getting in the NBA or not? But watching it now as like a adult and like, appreciating it all, then we really like Peyton, and we were able to meet and interview Hillary a couple weeks ago in Paris, and she's so lovely, as I'm sure obviously and that does affect things, like and that like if you meet the person and
Right.
they're really nice, you just like the
Yeah,
character even more because you're like, yeah, well, I really like you, so.
totally.
But my question for you is going to be when you're watching the show and you're the music supervisor, were you were you drawn to Peyton because of her love of music and obviously your love of music, kind of having that parallel?
For sure. I mean, you're right. Like, I think, I don't know if you guys are like, are you a Nathan or are you Lucas? But I always felt like I was like a little bit Peyton, a little bit Haley, in that I I was probably like a nerd, but but loved music, right? So wanted to be cool, wanted to be Peyton. I think, we definitely loved like the identity of Peyton. And from the start, there was kind of a directive that like if music's playing in Peyton's room, it needs to be like pretty cool and indie. Um, and so we used to make mixes for the show. We would make what we called like a handpicked, which was just like we were burning CDs, which like general music we think would be great for the show. And then we'd make like a Peyton's mix, so that it was very clear like what Peyton's sound was and what when there's music playing in her room, pull from Peyton's playlist. And you could pull from Peyton's playlist and also like put it elsewhere, but it was very important to the producers that you know, the other we like the producers on the show loved music, right? And interestingly, they had different tastes. Um, some being like more mainstream pop rock driven and others being like indie rock, indie alternative driven. And that's where we went with Peyton. Early on, she plays an Atari's record. Um, so I think we did use an actual Atari song. They were kind of like the cool, like not extremely well-known emo band at the time. And then the other thing that early on was in her record collection, I think she plays like a Cheap Trick record. So it was also like she might know things that are older and more classic. Like she has more music knowledge than most characters on the show. So that's something we could lean into too. We mostly couldn't afford older songs. So um, we leaned into the indie rock of it all. And I loved that music, so I definitely like embraced that um, part of Peyton's character.
Love that. Dom actually asked this question to somebody else, and I can't remember if we got an answer for this or not. I'm repackaging your question, Dom. But the in Red Bedroom Records, we must have asked this to Matt when we had him on, the
Mm.
set decorator, was that in behind her desk, she's got all like the album covers, like vinyl album covers. And Dom was asking, do you have to get clearance for that? I mean, I know that that's not sound. No, there's no
No, you
sound
do.
coming from them, but do you have to?
What did he say?
I
I can't,
can't
I can't
remember.
remember. Just
Well, yes,
slide
in
past it.
short, yeah, album artwork is copyrighted. That isn't necessarily like a music person's responsibility, but it can be. So like there's the episode I believe where they're feuding, where she and Lucas are like they've moved in together and then they're splitting up the house, and he's like the cure or whatever. And oh my God. And he pulls out an album that showed some artwork. So since I was clearing the song to go there, they had me include the permission to use the artwork with the song. So that would happen on occasion. But otherwise, there's like a clearance person who clears like every prop or any sign that you see in the background, right? Or even like they clear names and make sure you can use names or um but I think I don't remember exactly what records are specifically in Red Bedroom, but like even when we had posters on walls, there were times where I would do a reach out and be like, "Hey, we're decorating Peyton's room. Can you send us some posters that you would be okay with us using?" So like Vagrant Records was a small record label. They had the Get Up Kids, who was one of the showrunners' like favorite bands, and they also had Dashboard Confessional, like before they got signed to Interscope. Um, so we had a great partnership with them. So you'll see a lot of Vagrant Records stuff up on the wall. We definitely leaned into like I think that's season one, maybe it's season two, but the honorary title, who ends up on camera in season seven, I think. Um, we use them in season 1 or 2. There's a scene where Peyton walks into the music store and a music video is on in the background with the song playing. And so we had to find like an indie artist who had a video and a song that would work in that scene. And that's when I found the honorary title. And they were like on this tiny little record label, I think it was called Doghouse Records. Um, and they had a video we could use and gave us permission for like, you know, everything was pretty budget driven in the beginning. But I also think that's like that led us to like really embrace the indie music that we ended up being known for. Um, I like always really enjoyed that. And my favorite part of the job is like introducing people to new music. So we were able to give people that music discovery.
That's very cool. This might be a stupid question. It's kind of linked to the kind of like album artwork and stuff. If someone's singing a song in it, like I'm in the shower, I'm singing 3 seconds of a song, you have to clear that as well?
Yep.
Wow.
And even I'll tell you, remember, is it season 2 or 3 when we come to Karen's Cafe and she has lyric quotes all over the wall? We had to get permission. Well, we came up with the list of what they were and cleared some of them. So every time you saw this is the place that like Toad the Wet Sprocket quote, I can't remember. This is a place you always call home or something. Am I getting
Everything's safe. Is that a lyric? I never
Yes,
even
it's
know
a
that. I
lyric.
didn't
It's
even
Toad the
know.
Wet Sprocket, Walk on the Ocean. So
Of
that's a
course.
lyric. It came from the wall. Those were all lyrics at the time. Now, sometimes if the lyric is like, um, it's my life, like that's like a common expression, right? So that's hard to copyright, but that quote was like 4 sentences long and very clearly taken from a song. So we had to clear that too. When she writes the lyrics on the River Court, that was originally Led Zeppelin. We were like, we did it once. I don't think it's happening again. Um, and that's when I was like, I knew that I loved The Cure and the showrunner loved The Cure. So I was like, love song? Like, come on. But every time you see it, it's not a big payment, but there's a little payment that goes to The Cure's publisher because publishing and music rights is lyrics and music. So lyrics is one of them.
This is making me very concerned because the
What'd you
we
do? No.
we've been doing this podcast all going on 6 years at this point, about 5.5 years, and we use the outro, John Nordstrom's outro music of season 5, I think it is, that plays lightly over our intro and lightly over the intro, out over the outro. And when John came on, which was pretty early on, I was just pretty bold, and I was like, John, we can use this. No, he brought it up. He was just like, oh, I like that you used my music at the beginning, and I was like, I love it. Is that okay? Like, can you tell me that I've got the rights to use it? And he was like, I don't own it. Warner Brothers owns it. But he was like, I can tell you that you have my permission because he loves us. Of course he does. He just had to
But he
meet
doesn't
us.
own it at the end of
But
the day.
but he doesn't. But I'm gonna pretend like he does. And just take the risk. If Warner Brothers come for us, then Warner Brothers, we've spent the last almost 6 years promoting
Promoting your
your
show.
show and bringing people to watch it. Cut us a break. Come on.
And it's if it's only an excerpt of it and it's not the whole thing, podcasting is like an interesting, I have a podcast now, Sad Song
Yes.
Queens, and we play the whole sad song at the beginning of the episode. So we do get permission. We get like we're like we know we're music supervisors. We are getting our sign off. Um, but I think there are plenty of podcasts that play like a snippet of a song or talk about, and I don't know what their background is, but you know, if they are on a radio network, radio can do that with performance rights. It's complicated, but is it a news story? Is there some lawyer could make a decision on this? I mean, generally, and if they're not releasing it with video too, then it's a different type of right than like audio visual rights. It's
I,
complicated.
I I listen to a podcast called Desert Island Discs, which is a Radio 4 show over here, and it's a radio show that they do. Or is it Radio 2? Either way, and they'll have a celebrity on, and they'll pick their 8 tracks, and when they're broadcasting on the radio, they play most of the track. But when you're listening to the podcast version, they say for rights reasons we've had to reduce the amount we can play. So there is a definite difference there of what
Oh,
they
okay. And
when
then
they can
do you
play.
know how much they play? Is it like 15 seconds?
Yeah, yeah, it's really short. You get like barely any of the songs. Some songs are a bit longer than others. Obviously, I think there must be ones that, they've got better rights to or they're a bit more favorable, but it's mostly, yeah, 15 to sort of 20 seconds. It's not long at all.
Right.
And to be honest, like there's the least of our worries about
Yeah, it's also like, are you guys making any money? The like
well,
the
it's more that
not that
it's more
like
that we also do. I mean, we also do like we.
Don't don't
Okay,
don't do it.
fine,
Don't do
but
it.
it's all good.
we
I can tell.
we no, well, we no, this is okay. It's a safe place. Everything's safe and everything, whatever. We watch
Yeah.
One Tree Hill on Zoom with some of our listeners. It's like it's not, it's private. It's in a private Zoom, but we watch it each week because Dom is a first time watcher, and so the whole premise of our podcast is Dom reacting to One Tree Hill, me sort of being the expert guiding him through, but is very disgruntled. This is all an act, Lindsay. He's never this happy.
Wait, so like you've been watching and you're still not into it, or you just been
There's a lot of it I like. There's some bit like I'm watching it as a person that it wasn't marketed to now because
right?
I'm in my mid to late 30s.
Late.
Well, late 30s now, but we started in the mid. Calm down.
Started
So,
early.
oh, okay, all right, yeah, it feels a lot later than that. I feel like I'm 50 now. But watching this kind of teen drama and watching them have these relationships and go, just talk to each other. It'd be so much easier. And just getting frustrated at things that you think, you would have done as a
But then like,
teenager,
where's the drama? I hear you.
Exactly,
I felt
exactly.
that way with Meet the Parents and Meet the Fockers. I'm like, but I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's lots of elements that I really do like, lots of episodes that are great. The music is always fantastic. So there is lots in it that I do enjoy, but there's also lots I don't.
So I haven't rewatched it. I enjoyed it. I have seasons that I prefer more than others, but like I have a 15-year-old daughter, and so like 2 years ago, I was like, she loved Pretty Little Liars. I was like, okay, well, like, what about my show? We got through an episode and a half, and she's like, there's just a lot of basketball. I'm like, and it moves more slowly than shows do now, which I love. I mean,
Mm.
Felicity did that even more. Uh, anyway, so it's it's interesting, like how things appeal to you when you find them. And I know other people who I have a niece who like is rewatching it for like the third time, and she's like, "Oh my God, it's better every time, and the music holds up, and whatever." So.
That's wonderful. And I
You're
think
dumb. What do you think about the music? That's the real question.
The music is great. Like there's lots of music in there that I don't know, I've never come across before because it's like quite typically I think American indie bands that haven't made their way over the Atlantic. So getting to experience them kind of for the first time, like in my, mid to late 30s is also really cool because I'm kind of going, oh, all of these people that watch this love this band and they love the fact that they were in this show or they love them because they were in this show. And I've never heard of them. So it's like a great education for me, like going, oh, this is excellent. This is amazing. I do always kind of pick out the British act, the Brit
Which who
group
we
that's in there.
loved.
Yeah,
And,
which were
and
thrown in every now and then. So
you can't tell on the rewatch, but when we used Adele Chasing Pavements, that was the first US placement for Adele. And they sent me a gold record for it, which
oh
was,
wow.
yeah, I know that should be behind me, but it burned down in the fire. But you guys know I lost my house in the Palisades fire.
no. Oh
Mm.
no. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I had my first my One Tree Hill screen credit, and um, I didn't have that much souvenirs left, but my gold records, which were
That
mostly
Uh,
real.
that's so
that's
sad. I'm so sorry. That's awful.
mm.
Thank you. Yeah, me and 10,000 other people in LA. It was horrendous.
Awful. That's so awful. I'm not quite sure how to transition out of this.
No, it's okay. And delete that. No big deal. That's just for you guys.
No, no,
Oh,
well,
I've got a question about Kasabian. There's one Kasabian song that's used in One Tree Hill. I'm a huge Kasabian fan.
Love.
I've seen him 7 times already. I'm going again in July. I can't wait. July the 4th, funny enough. And yeah, I just wanted to mention it. That was it, really.
We love Kasabian. Honestly, like I'm definitely an Anglophile, and part of the reason I became friends with Laura Webb, who I do the Sad Song Queens podcast with, and we sometimes music supervise together, is because we like bonded over not only sad songs but like English music. Because um I mean, I love Kasabian too. I That song I hadn't heard in forever, and it came on a TV show my daughter was watching, and actually I feel like it was also out at a show and someone covered it, and I was like, hell yeah! Like, Kaiser Chiefs, like there was a whole
Mm,
block party is one of my faves. Travis was like we love the Irish bands too, Snow Patrol, um, Keen,
mhm.
it was a heyday of amazing indie rock, and especially from the UK. Um, Loved that stuff.
So
Still
cool.
do. Yeah.
so cool. Or you mentioned the showrunner with Mark, and I've like watched loads of the behind the scenes, like the what are you calling it? The behind the scenes, the extras on the DVDs and everything. Like just
Yeah.
before we started the podcast, I was like, I don't know what to do with the love I have for this show. I need to consume all of the media for it, and then it was like that's still not enough. I need to drag my friend through 6 years of this. But the uh, like his so it's very clear that he really loves music and that his taste of music is kind of implanted into the show. So was a lot of like how much influence did he have over you or the choices, or was it very much like you two were kind of working together and choosing the music together, or he kind of left you to it but just would give suggestions, or what was the deal?
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason Mark and I had a similar taste in music, so I that's part of the reason I think I continued to work on the show. And we would both get very excited about like indie artists. He definitely came in with a certain taste, uh, which I could like I know still like the back of my hand. Like he tended to like bands that had like gruffer voices, guitar based, but then like loved like like a Kate Vogel or whatever, right? Um, but so generally speaking, like we would make these mixes. So they would not only go to like the editors, but they would go into Mark and Joe. Like we would make a copy for Mark and Joe, and they could take them home and listen. And Mark would write with music a lot. And every once in a while, a song would be written in. That didn't happen regularly, but definitely his biggest focus was probably like the premiere and the finale. And towards the later seasons, he was directing the finale as well. Um, so definitely had more input, um, and was like like hands on those episodes. And then in between, you know, he he like approved every single song that was used, but at a certain point, like I'm working with the editors and getting editors music immediately so that they have stuff in the cut. And then Mark, Joe, the studio, the network would give like might be like, oh, like can we change out the song in these two scenes? And we provide alts. Or and I think sometimes where I came in is that there was always a budget to balance too. So like you couldn't put in six major label artists. We could only afford three to four. So definitely in the beginning, it would. I was telling you about that, like how fast those first 9 episodes were, and I would come in on Mark's lunch break and play him like alts. He'd be, you'd temp in um, the Ataris who were on Sony, and we couldn't like afford every episode, and I would bring in indie artist, emo rock band, and we'd pick one, right? So I would bring in like three choices per scene, and we'd play it up against picture and then choose it. So um but like again, like they threw in Led Zeppelin. Um, there was even one, the graduation episode. He put in Motley Crue, Home Sweet Home. I think Joe was in on that one too. And I was like, you guys, like, are teenage like girls who are like 16 really into this song? And they were kind of like, we just love it. And I'm like, okay, I can't really argue with that. You know what I mean? And then obviously with the like choosing the artists who came on the show, I mean, like when we were looking for the role that was Mia, that was ultimately Kate Vogel, like Mark told me that was happening and I brought over like we had like a meeting and I brought over like six artists I thought could be good for the role and we sat in his office and listened through them um and then decided who we would get auditions from and then I was not in those auditions and so then from there they're like casting and they decided who did what. But I was involved in almost all those decisions. So what I loved about it is that I was given like the room to collaborate, but also given the room to be like the editors shouldn't just put in whatever they want. They need to take music out of Lindsay's bins because, yes, part of that was budget, but two, it was also like she knows what Mark likes, she knows what Joe likes, like it's going to go faster, right? Like she knows the show. Like this is the identity of the show. And inherently, every once in a while, there would be like a band that I was like, oh my God, this band is so One Tree Hill. And then like it would get like pulled out in cuts, and I would be like, hey, like this band's really cool, I swear. And like eventually, like, fine, you can have that one. So stuff like that happened too. So
Great
When
answer.
when you have artists that are on the show, so I'm talking about the ones that are like the season regulars, so Kate, Tyler,
yeah.
and obviously Joy. Does your job get so much easier with their music, like music they've written and that they're going to do in the show, or is it just as difficult, but they're there in front of you and you're like, come on, work with me a bit, guys, you know?
No, no, I mean, like, and I think that was like the beauty of Kate Vogel, like if we had cast a somebody who was already a big name, it might have been like a little bit trickier. But no, if you're coming on the show, the whole point is to showcase your music. So that made my job easier in a lot of ways. Joy, was on the show, and then it was a matter of finding her music to perform. And then, she did perform some of her own stuff ultimately. But no, I would say that was like easier. I think the hard part would be like um getting the band there, and this also goes for like when there was just an on-camera performance. Um, a lot of it was like, how's the band getting there? Can they get there in that 5-day window or 6-day window in which we're shooting? The Angels and Airwaves concert being the most specific one because not only was it going to be filmed, but it was going to be an actual concert. So like we had a very particular day and they were like they were playing in Boston anyway, so they were all in the tour bus and driving south anyway, and they could stop in North Carolina and actually do a show. Because, right, like when they came and played Trick, like they just needed instruments to play, and we could provide backline, which is like the speakers and the microphones and all those things. But when they're going to play live, they want it to be their live show, so they need all their live equipment. So that was an extra hurdle. Um, and and like sometimes those bands were like, sometimes I was like, we want a band on camera. Who are good options? And then other times it would be like, we want Fall Out Boy on camera. Can you ask them? And I'd be like, okay, I'll go ask them. So,
Awesome. Thank you.
On the other side, so you've got Mark on this side with like, helping or having input on choosing music and everything like that. And then on the other side, we've got, like you, another like an unsung hero of the show with John Nordstrom, who his music is so beautiful. So Dom is a massive music fan, like as in he that goes to a music quiz that he's been going to for how many years, Dom?
10, maybe
More
more.
than that, more than that. I know it's more than that because I came with you like at least 12 years ago. But Dom's been doing this for a long time. He's really and but the music, I enjoy music. Everybody does, of course. But the music I like Meatloaf. And things more from the. Have you ever cleared a Meatloaf song? How does that go?
I think I have. I don't know that it was ultimately used, but
What a mistake! What a mistake! But
It
but
was 7 minutes about out of
well,
hell.
yeah, and it was for the thing off. It was an a cappella competition show. So, but I don't think they did it. But we needed something dramatic and big that
mm,
also sounded good when a bunch of people sang it.
hell yeah, exactly. No one does it better than Meatloaf. But the music I really like listening to, especially when I'm like working and things, is like movie scores. And like I have whole playlists of like John Williams. Of course, it's John Williams, but also things like Prison Break. I love the score to Prison Break, and Lost and TV shows like that. And One Tree Hill has a great score. And so when we had John on, he like was shared his like SoundCloud and things, and the music's so great. How does that interweave with what you're doing? Like, did you work with John a lot, or is it just kind of these things are treated as completely separate?
No, they are together and separate at the same time. So, the first two seasons were scored by Mark Snow, not
Hmm.
John Lundstrom.
Yeah.
But we found, and this goes into just like everybody's music taste was we love songs. And so we would temp with like instrumental songs quite a bit because that was the vibe we liked. So when we hired John, that was part of like the assignment. I was part of that search and bringing new composers to the table. Um, and uh and then as John came on, kind of coming on like middle of third season or right into season three, right? Um we would be like there was a cue for that we would like we always loved. It would work over anything. We were like, this cue works over everything. It's kind of like a Salisbury Hill Peter Gabriel or something. But so, you could say things to the composer like, we love this. And then, like, here, and I did the same thing on the Royals when we hired Sid Khosla. It was like, here are the bands that we love. Here's instrumental versions of their music. We'd love the score to sound like this. Like, we always said we want the score to sound like a band's performing it. And, when you listen to John's score, it is piano and guitar, and it's that electric guitar that we loved as well. So, like, you know, um, and I can't remember what season this was, but I don't know if you're Frightened Rabbit fans, but we were big like that album came out and I was like, "Oh my God." I like handed it to Mark at a show. I was like, "I think this is the sound of season 3." Like, and it was maybe and then getting the instrumentals of those so we could put it in our composer's head to be like, "This is what we're loving." And obviously like the difference songs are long and sometimes very repetitive, right? And sometimes that's not what you need when it comes to score. Score needs to hit certain moments. So it was more just like inspiration of the musical sound we want to lean into. And then John took that and ran with it. And then, of course, you're taking these examples that he has, whether it's from something he's creating new or um, I think also when he came to the table, he's like, here's some of the stuff I've done before. So it might be like, oh, okay, we like this cue because of the piano, but like, can you take out the piano and make it guitar? I think what we always loved about our score as well was having some melody in it. So that it was, some score can be kind of like drony and obviously to the John Williams of it all, we didn't need like John Williams score over these kids hanging out in like a small town in North Carolina,
There
right?
should be that version though. Let's edit that together.
Well, there was. You would get the episode, you would get like the Lucas needs to be rushed to the hospital. I think we had I think we had everybody who we interviewed do like we gave them like a sensitive scene and a dramatic scene to know that they could do both. So demoing is something that you do when you hire composers. So, because you wanted to know that like it's not all like guitar and lovey-dovey stuff, right? Like you need to also come through when the drama happens. So, and most composers can do all that. It's nice to hear it. in their work.
Great answer. We've got some questions from some listeners, if that's okay. The first one's actually from my wife, which is funny because she's not a listener. And she's not a One Tree Hill fan, and that's not in that she dislikes it. She's just never seen it, and she's only she's seen little bits when I've had it on, especially like it's actually our 16-year anniversary tomorrow.
Okay.
So we've been together, thank you. We've been together a long time, and I watched it quite near the beginning of our relationship, and so she's just ever seen bits, and she said to me that I said, "Oh, we've got Lindsay on tonight, and it's really exciting, like the music supervisor and so on, so on, so on." And she's just like, "Oh, great, great, great." I was like, "Do you want me to ask her anything or anything?" She's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." They do like the montages sometimes, and I've seen an episode and have that on. And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And she's like, "Can you ask her why it's so loud? Like, why is the music so loud?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll ask, but I don't know if that's like what her in her control. Maybe someone was there a mandate to make it so loud?"
No, we just love music. So we were like, let the music tell the story. Wait, does it play like I do think part of it is our speakers at home. I I think the calibration between like music and dialogue is like a little bit
Mm,
off. But no, we were on a mix stage. There was someone who mixed it very often when it came to a montage. We'd be like, turn up the music. Just because we're
crank
music
it.
lovers. It was a music lovers show. So
I just have to say, it just came into my head that there's a certain montage, I believe it's season one, episode 8. How crazy, if that's right, I'm pretty sure it is. Where it's Pete Francis Untold. Do you know that song?
yes, I remember that. In the beginning
That's
of the episode, right? Or the
yeah,
end.
I think it's at the end. I think it's
Okay.
like has Haley did it can't be
Does it get
that
really
as
loud? What happens?
it gets really loud, but that song, it inspired me so much, right? When I, this is almost embarrassing. I was like, how old? Maybe 24 or something. And I was so inspired by it and inspired by like Lucas and Nathan and what they were doing that I literally watched the episode and then put my running shoes on and found the song and went out and just ran, like just jogging like at night because I was so inspired because they weren't giving up on their dreams, Lindsay, and I wasn't going to give up on mine either. It's like that is the impact on choosing the right song. Like you, and maybe in season one, maybe you didn't choose it, maybe you were still learning. Did
No,
you choose it?
I definitely I remember that song. I chose it. I'd probably pitched it for a couple scenes by that point. I, I was 24 when I was working on it. So
That's
I felt
crazy.
that same, I was like, this means something. We're gonna inspire somebody. Like we did it. We did it. So like I love hearing that because I felt so strongly about like every decision. Which I'm mid 40s, so I'm really over the hill now. But
No, you're not.
but I do agree, like you have a time in your life where you really feel that way. And I'll still feel that way about like certain moments I work on, like right, like oh, this couple's kissing for the first time, like we have to get it right. Um, but I felt that way about so many things on One Tree Hill. And at the time, I worked on that and maybe one other TV show. Like I eventually worked on Ghost Whisperer as well. I was able to give all my energy to one show. Music supervisors work on a lot of shows with like 10 episodes now, and that means you have to do more than one to make a living. Um, so it's that's like another interesting angle on how much you can dive in when someone pays you properly or if someone makes enough episodes to make a living.
Wow, another great answer. And it's very surreal for me to be in this moment because how many it's only really just dawned on me that, but how many times can you it's not very often that someone can say, "Oh, I was really inspired by that exact moment," that then later like I mean, you don't know our whole story here, but like what and I won't bore you with it because we spent 6 years talking about it, but from watching One Tree Hill it got me into playing basketball, that got me into coaching Special Olympics basketball, that got me traveling international, to we won for Great Britain, we won back-to-back world championships, to got me into what my career is, to owning a business, to so on, so on, so on. And I always attribute it back to or I would never have started that journey if it wasn't for One Tree Hill. But I always put it down to that moment of it actually that scene and that song got me to get up and actually physically get out of the house and sort of it's almost like the beginning of that. And so for that whole full circle moment to then be talking to you now many years later on a podcast that Dom and I have been doing for these last years, that's quite a surreal full
Oh,
circle thing. So what
that's super cool. What was the scene? I totally remember the song in season one, but what did they do?
it's like the Nathan acknowledges Haley for like the first time in public at the high school, and he kind of like brushes her hair back because he was been kind of not bullied, but like Tim and his friends had kind of been pressuring him before that she's a loser and you shouldn't be with her, even though she's obviously clearly very cool and talented and pretty and all the rest of it. There's lots of other things going on. I think Lucas
Yeah,
is.
I feel like there's like a Keith Karen thing happening too.
Yeah, well, I guess the whole thing, yeah, everyone's not giving up on their dreams, right? And sort of becoming better people. So, I mean, yeah, but what a full circle moment for me, Lindsay, which is, which
Oh,
is,
that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's cool.
thank you. Okay, so two other people that also are very important, our listeners, of course. Uh, Lauren asks, was there a band or artist you wanted to use, but the showrunners weren't feeling that you really had to fight for?
No, not particularly. I mean, I mentioned like, you know, a throwaway use or whatever that I was like, how come you keep pulling this band out when they're great? Not that I recall. I think we were, I mean, the good news was we used so much music. Like there were like we used almost 10 songs an episode. So we had a lot of chances to use music as well. So
Cool, awesome. Chuck asks, was there ever a strong push for more local music acts to appear on the show?
um not particularly. I do remember looking for that, but at the same time, you're telling a story. So the best song for the story always wins. I do feel like, I do interestingly now, if you were making the show, we might lean into more like North Carolina acts. I do feel like we had some along the way. I do feel like it's like something that came up. I don't remember it being a strong mandate. It's definitely something people think a little bit more about now. I don't know that the music coming out of North Carolina is that different than the music coming out in all of the US. Whereas, like, I work on a TV show, XO Kitty, that takes place in Korea, and we lean into K-pop and like Korean vocal music. Obviously, when you're in a different country, sometimes it's easier to see that distinction. And it's something people do think about more now than they did in 2003.
Excellent. Well, so far, these first two questions, the answer has been no. But let's see if the first,
Sorry, I know.
this
Go for the
third
hat
one,
trick.
yeah, no, it's not possible. This third one is it's not a yes, no. Again, you don't need to answer this if you're not able to or not comfortable to. But Sarah asks, who is in the industry also, what was the budget for music for an episode?
I can't say
Sarah, you
that.
should have known better. How dare you
More
ask?
than I can say it's more than music budgets are today for the most part. But every studio, every show's different. But now it would be considered like a great budget. And at the time, it felt so tight.
Okay.
And I think part of that is because um, it's interesting for some of the more iconic songs, like the price has gone up, but for emerging artists who just want to get placed, they're more flexible now with fees than they used to be.
Okay, great. And it's amazing because you thought it wouldn't be possible, but you did manage to say no to that question. So that's 3 out of 3.
I'm a tough one, apparently.
Okay. This is the last one from our listeners. Let's see if you can do the full. Let's see if you can get all of them as no's. Jenna asks, what's the one song you or she, that Lindsay wanted to fit into an episode that Lindsay, just could never find a scene it worked for?
Um, there were definitely plenty. I mainly remember uh, the wedding scene with Lucas and Lindsay. Um, I don't know if anyone has realized, but in the aired version, we used In Excess, Never Tear Us Apart. And then in every version since, we use Carey Brothers Ride. And that is because at the time, the music rights were complicated with that copyright at that very moment. Um, they were like renegotiating a deal or in the middle of negotiating who owned their recordings. I don't know exactly, but they could only give us North American rights. And because it was our 100th episode, uh, the network let us do that switch. Otherwise, we wouldn't. They would. It's a big pain because right, they have to like ask for all those recordings back because we only have limited rights. Anyway, in coming up with alts for that moment, I remember really liking, and I think I tweeted about it, like when the show ended, was like, if you put this song up to that scene, it works so well. And the band is Air Traffic, and let me do a quick Google.
While Lindsay is doing that, Dom, are you surprised that she managed to not say no to the fourth one in a row?
I'm
She
so
already...
much pressure to say yes to this one. I mean, it is kind of no, but
If it was me, I would have said no, just out of principle.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah, you're funny.
of
But it was an
course.
Air Traffic song. I can't tell you the name of the song right now. What year was that? Probably like 2009, 2008.
I could tell you when Meatloaf's second album came out, if that helps.
No More Running Away. That is the name of the song. So check out Air Traffic, No More Running Away. And I thought that wasn't like a song that I was like, this must be in One Tree Hill, but I was like, oh, I really like this use. There were probably others. There was like a Coldplay song that I really liked in place of Can't You See when Lucas and Peyton drive into the sunset. Um, that was definitely like old song versus new song. And I always leaned new song, but it worked. So.
Excellent. And then Jenna has a second part to her question. So you have one more opportunity to say no. It's a not really a question. For all the fans like me who discovered so many artists because of the show, would she give a list or make a playlist of songs that have come out since One Tree Hill and the Royals ended that she envisioned as being perfect for the show? Z in brackets, there's an S in brackets for One Tree Hill and the Royals.
I came on a podcast and got a homework assignment. But I agree, it's a fun idea. I mean, the thing that I have in my iTunes is every song I ever like pitched for both shows. So I'm sure there's a playlist to be made for the songs that didn't land. Um,
Well, if you didn't want to like spend the time like actually making a playlist, if you could set if you ever have time wanted to send us a list, we could make the playlist on Spotify or whatever, and then you could share it or something, or maybe that's something you want to do just on your own or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure plenty of people would love to know and like you said, the reboot. I mean, wouldn't that be wonderful if that could continue? I mean, that's above our pay grade to know what's going on there. I'm sure it's above many people's pay grade. I don't know, but
yeah. I think what I also appreciate about both those shows is we used a ton of rock and indie rock, and I'm not on any shows that are really doing that right now. So I would like love to get back into that. So for sure. That's a good
it's
idea.
okay.
We'll
So
see.
that we'll say that one's
I
maybe a
just need
yes.
like the time to do it and the mental space to do it. I should have done it when like One Tree Hill had wrapped. Anyway.
Well, speaking of like, current things, so you're the music supervisor on Sullivan's Crossing, which is another Chad Michael Murray show. Is that just a coincidence, or are you like his best friend and you're going to help us
No,
get him
I
on the
don't. I've
podcast?
never met Chad in my life. And I'm actually not working on season 4. They hired a Canadian supervisor. Canada has amazing tax credit, so it also like goes towards who you are. But Roma Roth, who's the showrunner in that show, she did the first season of Virgin River. So I was brought on that because I did Virgin River, but it was totally like, oh my God, Chad, it's full circle. But we've still never met. But it's funny because you watch somebody on in all the edits and cuts that we get for years. So it's funny to be like, oh, like I totally recognize like the way he like smirked or like hugged somebody or whatever. But I'm sure like any fan would.
Amazing. What did you get to spend any time? Did you get to go out to set in Wilmington and things like that, or did you mainly were you staying in LA?
I was mostly in LA, but I came out for a couple of the on cameras, like a handful. So I've met some of like the cast, like I met Joy and Sophia and Daphne. Like I got it when we arrived, we went out to dinner with them. I was there for when we did like the Fall Out Boy, Jackson Anakin, Haley show. That was my first time to set. Um, and then it was a benefit, wasn't it?
Like
No.
friends with benefit?
It was, I don't know that it was Friends with Benefits, but maybe it was.
But hey, there's a great question in that, Lindsay. So there's CDs that came out, right? Like the road mix and the friends with benefit and things. Did you get to have something to do with
Yeah,
that?
absolutely, 100%. Cleared all the songs that went on there, and was part of, got to be part of the decision maker of what went on there and what would be good on there. That was super fun. Even the track listing, um, I was involved in, so that was fun. Like we would go over and I was clearing the songs too, so I like Um, there were definitely songs we requested to be on a soundtrack that didn't necessarily say yes. It wasn't a lot of money, and some people were weird about soundtracks versus just like a use in a show. And then like I remember going over to the writer's room and like with like note cards, and we were like, okay, here are all the songs cleared, like here they are, and what's the order, and like because we always cleared more than actually made the album. So um, I remember a handful that like didn't make. I think there was like an Anna Nalick song, Wreck of the Day, that we loved, but we didn't put on um, one of the albums. Anyway, but that was super fun. It was a super fun process.
It's very cool. Well, you saw some of the real background, so you probably got an idea, apart from the mess that I'm quite nerdy with some of these things. I have sealed versions of those CDs, like still in the original wrap. So, don't know,
Uh,
just saying that. Are you still in contact with people that you worked with, like behind the scenes from One Tree Hill, like the people? Who are the peoples? Who did you work? Like, who would your day-to-day people be? Like the producers and things?
yeah, I mean the producers, the post producer, Maureen Milligan. I'm not on a show with her right now, but I am still in touch with her. She ran, like, made sure all the cuts got out on time and things were on budget and stuff like that. Some of the editors, because the music editor, Stu Getz, we were just Facebook messaging recently. I think he's like trying to retire. Um, uh, randomly, I think like David Hartley, who I, if we ever had a band on camera, that's who I would talk to in Wilmington about like making sure they had all their stuff. And um, he emailed me by accident on he must have a Lindsay on a different show, and I got some email and I was like, wrong Lindsay, but hi. Um, so and then mainly like Joe and Mark, Joe DeVola ended up starting Awesomeness TV after One Tree Hill ended with Brian Robbins, and brought me in to do all their music stuff. So saw him the most. Steve Goldfried, who did a lot of behind the scenes stuff, he directed a documentary that I worked on with the Awesomeness team. Um, yeah, that's about it for Les Butler, who was like our lead editor. Have you guys interviewed him?
No, well, I mean, apart from the fact that it's just like I feel like I know all of these names from like the credits, from
Right.
seeing
Yeah.
them for so many years. But we very much pride ourselves on like we've at this point we've done 30, we've done 35 interviews with like cast and crew, and we've got all of the main cast except for Chad. He's our final one. But we
Sorry
also
that I couldn't be that connection with Sullivan's.
that's okay. We're determined it will happen at some point. But we'd like to highlight and give credit to like the unsung heroes like you and John Nordstrom and like Matt Sullivan, set decorators. We've had some of the writers on, Johnny Norris, Mike Harrow. So
Yes.
I didn't know if there was and some of them have been very helpful. Like Mike helped us get James Lafferty, Johnny helped us get Lee Norris, Paul Johansson helped us get Barbara Allen Woods. Like we've had lots of people that have sort of hopefully thought that we're okay and normal enough that we can talk to people and that it will be okay. But I wondered if there was anyone that you think would be someone that they should be highlighted as someone that should get given their flowers or might be interested in talking with us.
I mean, Les was an integral person on One Tree Hill, and I think like is even listed as a producer, a co-producer. I don't. He might be the kind of person who's like, I don't do interviews or is more private. But he edited the pilot and
Mm.
was on through the end and was on the Royals and had a real opinion about music too. Um, but he almost always did the premiere and the finale. Like he was kind of like the lead editor, for lack of a better word. And his assistant editor was his sister,
Mm.
and so that was also fun. Um, so like you just like I mean, my family was the post-production crew, and you went in and had spotting sessions and you sat in the edit bay with the editors, and it was our music editor and John, our composer, and me and Maureen, the post-producer, and Mark or Joe or both. And anyway, it was, and you'd like make jokes, and it was also some of the same people on the mix stage, and but Les was a really trusted. I think he directed some episodes too. Like he was one of those people who, if Mark or Joe weren't available, could make decisions on their behalf when it came to editorial and stuff. So.
Okay, very cool. Well, then we'll put him in our crosshairs for
Yeah, I haven't.
next.
I saw him a couple years ago. I haven't been in touch, but I could reach out if you want.
I mean,
Um,
that would be lovely, Lindsay. No pressure. I mean, you've also got a whole playlist to make, but just take them one at a time.
um, but yeah, I was gonna ask you guys something and I forgot. But oh well.
Oh no. Well, if it
It
comes,
wasn't important to the pod. It was more just like I don't even. Are you almost done? Like because you've rewatched the whole thing, so you'll be done with your episodes too?
we've got we've only got two more to watch, three more to podcast, and then we've really picked up momentum in the last year, like since being on Drama Queens and things, it kind of opened other doors. So we're still doing the interviews, like we love having these conversations. But we are coming to a close semi
Yeah.
soon, I think. Because like One Tree Hill itself, it can't go on forever. Sadly, I have tried to convince Dom that we should just start again from the beginning, but it's been met with a brick wall. Um, but Lindsay, can you tell us about your podcast? I know you've mentioned it already, but like tell us a bit more about that, so where our listeners can find you at, and yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. I have a podcast called Sad Song Queens. I do it with another music supervisor, Laura Webb. She was actually the music supervisor on Teen Wolf. So we both
Mm.
came up on these kind of like teen dramas that used really cool music and bonded over that. But we both love sad songs, so we're just like I think everybody has a favorite sad song. So we take a sad song and we interview the artist about it. We listen to the song together and talk about what we think it means, what it actually means, and because the topic is sad, it usually leads to like other interesting things. And it's been amazing because we've interviewed like Keen and Snow Patrol and
Wow.
Phineas and Moby and Band of Horses, who was super grateful for all the syncs that he's had over the years. We had used two songs on One Tree Hill. Um, anyway, so it's been fun. And yeah, it's been out for a year, so you can find episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find podcasts, and um, it's fun. So I hope you check it out.
Awesome. Definitely. And thank you so much for your time here today, for all of your insight stories. It's all so interesting. And then also thank you for having such a big impact on a show that means so much to so many people, myself, but all of our listeners and people from around the world. Like Dom and I have been to two One Tree Hill conventions now, what this year even. One, it's been a big year. One in Wilmington and one in Paris, and I mean, if anything, the fandom seems to be growing, and that's just testament to your work. So yeah, thank you.
That's insane. The show meant a lot to me too. It was like a dream to work on, and I have so many happy memories associated with it. So I'm glad.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to get to talk to you and find out about what you do and your insight into your role and everything, which has been amazing. And just getting to chat, all things music and putting music into shows is just awesome. So thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. Thank you both for being interested.
The only criticism, One Tree Hill did not have enough meatloaf.
I mean, we'll revise that in the future.
For the review.
I'm wondering if we ever considered meatloaf. That's really interesting.